Memorial Day is a time each year when we pause to remember those servicemen and women who have laid down their lives for family, for friends, and for freedom. 1 week after Pearl Harbor was attacked, President Franklin D. Roosevelt said, "Those who long enjoy such privileges that we enjoy forget in time that others have died to win them." Freedom is never really free. It's almost always bought with the blood of patriots. Patriots, men and women, who answer a call to duty, a call to service, servicemen, servicewomen. Think about that title. People in service. And hold that thought. Millions of Americans have heard and responded to that call to serve, to fight for, to die if necessary, to defend the rights, the principles, the beliefs, the freedoms upon which this country was founded. The biggest battle we as Americans are facing today, though, is the battle for the soul of the nation. And I know that that's a quote by our current president, but he's not the only American that believes. And where else should we be talking about souls but here in church? We see it around us every day, this erosion of our society. It's been a slow process, but we've seen it accelerate rapidly over the last few years. And it really doesn't matter whether it's a Democrat or Republican sitting in the Oval Office or who the Speaker of the House is. The nation that we all know and love continues to erode bit by bit. The position we're in today is because of what we tolerated yesterday. And the position we'll be in tomorrow is because of what we tolerate today. History has a way of repeating itself down the centuries. And I think one of the reasons is that too many of us in this country have lost their sense of remembrance. We've distanced ourselves, both in time and circumstance, from the causes that brought about these calls to service. Our country has fought in 12 wars. As of May 22nd, this past week, there have been 1,304,447 military fatalities in the wars, from the Revolutionary to the current war on terror. And by today, that number has surely increased. Today, as of November, there are 5,641,174 living veterans. Some of them sitting here today. We're so very grateful that you're here, and we thank you all for your service. On this Memorial Day, my prayer is that we would be challenged to be a people of remembrance, a people who remember why it is that people came from faraway continents and countries across decades to the United States, where they've left home to cross oceans and to walk thousands of miles to come here. Millions have come to establish a new home where they can live without rule of tyranny or terror, war, famine, poverty, to a place of peace and promise, where personal freedoms are upheld, and where the pursuit of justice is more than a dream, and where we're free to worship. As a people of remembrance, we recall that Americans have sacrificed their lives. They've left their families, home behind them as they've answered the call to duty and to service, to defend all of those rights and privileges, to defend the ideas and the ideals of democracy. And they have done so because they have felt it to be of the utmost importance. And we must remember, America used to honor God unashamedly and openly. It's etched in numerous monuments all over the nation's capital, all over our state capitals. It's carved in granite and in marble on many of our government buildings. It's printed on our currency. And there was a time when we credited God with our blessings and our successes and turned to him in times of trial and loss. But today, many have seemed to have forgotten or lost faith or rejected faith or twisted faith. Faith in who God is and in who we are. We seem to have lost a sense of remembrance. President Woodrow Wilson said, quote, "A nation that does not remember what it was yesterday does not know what it is today or what it is trying to do. We are about a futile thing if we do not know where we came from or what we have been about," end quote. In many ways, we've forgotten our past. Is there something that distinguishes America from our neighbors to the north and to the south? Canada was settled by French explorers who came there in search of gold. Mexico was settled by Spanish explorers who were also looking for gold. America was settled by men and women who were looking for God, not gold. They came searching for a home where God could be exalted and worshiped in spirit, in freedom, and in truth. We've fallen a long way from what we once were. We've gotten so far off our founders' path that we are at a time in history where our freedoms are not increasing but are decreasing, where freedoms that we have fought for and won for the betterment of the citizens are being torn away. We're at a time when our daughters have fewer rights than their mothers. And we are at a time when the very circumstances that have caused immigrants to leave their homes and find a home in the United States are rising up here. The rule of law is under attack. Some people are claiming freedom to act above the law without reproach. There's a significant rise in anti-Semitism, in violent rhetoric, and in racial violence. And leaders are guilty of playing political games. We have short memories. We say, never forget, but we do, and we have. We have fields of flags planted all over our country this weekend. Thousands of flags that represent those brave and selfless men and women who answered the call to service, the call to duty to God and to country. Flags that remind us of their sacrifice, and flags that are a warning if we do not remember. We are destined to make that same mistake, and we cannot let their sacrifice be for nothing. There's an expensive price to pay when a nation loses all sense of remembrance of where they've come from, of who they are, of whose they are. Memorial Day is a national holiday. It's not a religious observance, but a civic one. And yet there is something especially holy about life. And those who offer up their life in service to others and engage in sacred sacrifice. Jesus said, "There is not a greater love than this, to have laid one's life down for one's friend." Jesus said that, and it's a call to service. It's a sacred act to remember those who stood up and stepped up and spoke up for the protection and defense of other people, of ideals and aspirations like freedom and equal rights and privileges and truth and justice. And we remember with songs and stories. We carry memories and mementos to help us to remember and honor the acts and the lives of those lost. And we pause to take a sweet breath of freedom, remembering that it is not free. There's a song that we used to sing and up with people called "Freedom Isn't Free." I'm not going to sing it. But freedom isn't free. Freedom is not free. You've got to pay the price. You have to sacrifice for your liberty. Freedom is a word often heard today, But if you want to keep it, there's a price to pay. And each generation needs to win it anew because it's not something handed down to you. Freedom isn't a gift. It is given and remains giving forever. It's a constant struggle to maintain, to preserve, and to protect. And we remember those who have handed it down to us, those whose pictures are on the chancel, those of you in the pews, those at home, and those who gave their lives and sacrificed for their country, who live eternally with God. We are called to be a people who serve. Each one of us. We're called to be ministers in service of God. And we are called to serve God and serve Jesus and serve our country. Let us be a people of remembrance, a people who remember every day, not just on Sunday, and not just one day in May. May it be so. Amen.